following podcast contains spoilers, adult language, and...
Hey, what are you doing? I mean, I normally do...
Normal?
Open...
Normal? Nothing is normal, Diana, okay? We're covering Stranger Things here. We are in the upside down. Everything is opposite.
This is a message from the Office of Emergency Preparedness. Due to the recent crisis, we ask that you remain in your homes. Do not attempt to communicate or interact with the creatures, even if they are people you know.
Lock your doors. Bar your windows. Evil is coming. It's time for Aim for the Head, a horror apocalypse entertainment podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Diana and Steve.
Hi, and welcome back to Aim for the Head podcast. I'm Steve.
And I'm Diana?
That's right. And this week, we're jumping in with our coverage of the final season of Netflix hit series, Stranger Things. And first up is episode 1, titled Chapter 1, The Crawl.
Mm-hmm.
So now what we normally like to do is when we start out, for those of our people that are just new to the show, is we like to run off with our quick thoughts, thoughts right at the top of our head about the episode we just covered. And so last episode we did, episode number 380, Diana went first, so that means it's my turn to go first. So what did I think about Stranger Things season 5, episode 1, The Crawl? I think overall, I enjoyed the episode. It was great to kind of have everybody back and, be back into the world of Hawkins and enjoying, the setup and the storyline that they'd established. It also took a long time for me to get into it just because it had been so damn long since this show was on previously. Right. So that was a little, it's sort of like, I don't know about you, but I spent a lot of time in this episode just trying to remember who everybody was. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And unfortunately, like you watched the whole show, all the seasons before the new episodes came out.
I did.
And whereas I did not, but the Duffers came out with like, hey, if you're trying to refresh yourself, they listed like 5 episodes to watch of the previous 4 seasons, and I did that, and I thought that was even more confusing because you'd watch an episode and you're like, Nancy didn't get out of the upside down there at the end. She's really she's in trouble. And then you watch the next one that they told you to watch, and it's 12 episodes later, and she's fine and everything's good, and you're like, I guess she must have gotten out of it. So that was a little weird to me, but overall I did. I enjoyed the episode. I think it was a good, kind of a starter, kind of a kind of setting it up, giving us an idea of where they're going to go this season. Mm-hmm. We learn a lot about the big crack that had appeared across the literally right across the landscape. What happened? What was the military's response? And also we get a look into what's going on with our old chums as they are trying to decide, is Vecna dead? Are they're still looking for him? All of that. So overall, I thought it was a good starter. What did you think?
I thought it was good. I thought that it was a little, and like you said, I did watch the episodes, and when I say watch the episodes, I mean I watched all of them. Mm-hmm. I can't remember when I finished my binge, but I
remember it was before the first batch came out, around Thanksgiving last year.
Yeah.
So it was before that. It was in October, I want to say.
Yeah, but it was before, so I finished on time, but I think there was still a little bit of a lull between when it ended and then when I was, waiting for them to come on, but okay. It still was helpful to watch all of, let's put it this way, by the time the Duffers were like, hey, this is coming up soon, you should watch these 5 episodes, I had already binged the whole thing. So it was too late. I went back and I was like, yeah, those 5. I could see. So I refamiliarized myself with those ones. Mm-hmm. Just like the descriptions and whatever. I thought it was good. I didn't have to struggle too much with the whole who are these people and where did they come from? The thing I struggled with that I still say probably to me hurt some of the structure of the first episode. I think they did do a good job of like letting you know where they were going, but the thing I was disappointed in was not really, I mean, you got like a little bit, but not a lot of time was spent on where they had been. So what I mean is it's 18 months later from when the last episode was. And so it felt like they did a lot of talking about where they were now, like especially the exposition dump from Robin. You know, you get kind of caught up on where they are, but I think they could have done that differently. I felt like that was a little. I understand they're stressed for time, but I felt like they could have structured that differently. I would have been fine with a couple of flashback scenes showing, you know, what if they showed instead of the entire training run for 11 when she was doing the thing, running through the woods, then doing the obstacle course. What if instead of showing that whole thing, what if they showed it in stages of this was the first day she did it. This is 6 months later, a little bit of her doing it and getting better. And then this is her, because she's been doing this for like, you know, close to that whole 18 months training to get ready for whatever. So it would have been interesting to sort of see that, you know. I just felt like the structure of how they did the story, I thought it was a little lazy here and there. But a lot of the goodness that I enjoyed in the episode, because I still enjoyed the episode, was it was great to be sort of back in the world, back with the people, the characters, the story, you know, the music, the situations, all of the stuff that you love about the series. That stuff was present in that first episode. And it was interesting because we had all of our people were all together, other than, you know, Max being in the hospital. Everybody's, even though she's in the hospital, they still go visit her. So everybody's essentially all together, which hadn't really been happening a lot in the last couple of seasons. They've been like 4 here, 5 here. They're working on getting to the same place together. So it was interesting to have everybody sort of be there. And, you know, you have Hopper in the same room as, you know, like Dustin and Lucas, and you know, he was in Russia the last, you know, season that we watched, you know. So it was nice to catch up with everybody. I felt like it was not as strong as it could have been, but it was still overall, I thought it was a good episode and a good start. So there's that. So yeah, back to you.
All right. Well, so for those of you who have not been following along, what we kind of adopted a new format when we started reviewing Fallout, the previous season of Fallout, and that is, rather than just listing all of the moments, the points that we thought were interesting or we loved or maybe we didn't love, we've kind of tried to limit it to just 5, our top 5 moments of each episode. And I think for Fallout that really helped, because a couple of those early episodes of Fallout, we were, very chitty chatty, and
yes.
and there's a lot to say because it's a really great show. And and if you guys haven't listened to that, you know, you need to stop listening to this and you need to go back 8 episodes and listen to it, because it was a really great season, and I thought we did a pretty good job of pointing out the moments and things that we thought were cool. But anyway, because of that, we've tried to limit it to 5, and so. Before we jump into that, though, we always like to have our episode description and also cover our writer and our director. And now, Diane, I know that's your thing. So
this is so weird.
Upside down. So why don't you take it away? I know, and unlike the Fallout episode description writers, these people actually wrote some sentences. So please fill us in.
So while this is strange, no pun intended, and very upside down to do this, Here is your episode description. And as a reminder, this is Stranger Things, Season 5, Episode 1. Title of this episode is Chapter 1, The Crawl. And here is the description. November 1987. The gang evades the military to scour the Upside Down for Vecna, but fails to notice a threat lurking closer to home. And that is your episode description.
I like it.
And as Steve said, it is a little bit longer than the ones that we got for Fallout.
Well, first hilarious. Of all, it's not a line of dialogue, so well done. And I also like that, you know, if you were just like, I wonder what that show's about, what that episode's about, you could read this and go, okay, I have an idea of what happens, and, you know, they're not wrong, and they didn't really give anything away, so I like it.
Yeah, not bad, not bad. And before we get started, we also talk, like Steve said, writer and the director. So there's the writers of this episode and the directors of this episode are, strangely, no pun intended, the same. And that is the Duffer Brothers. And I don't think I really need to talk a lot about the Duffer Brothers and what they've done and what they're known for, because it's this. They are the Stranger Things guys.
They really are.
Yeah. So they are the writers of episode 1. They are the directors of episode 1. And just as a little side note, if you watched either just this episode or if you watched all of season 5 and you're finished with it, there is also on Netflix, there is a really good making of documentary that they released. And I've watched like half of it so far. I still have a little bit more to go, but there's a lot of... you get a lot of Duffer Brothers, seeing them on set and how they run how they put stuff together. So really interesting. So yeah,
right.
Check that out.
Sounds cool. All right. So let's just jump right into it. And so obviously here, Diana, I say ladies first. So please, why don't you just lead us off with your first of your top 5 moments?
Okay. So there's typically most of these shows will do like a cold open, and this is no different. But in this sense, and it was cold because it really looked like Will was a little chilly.
It did.
But I like this opening that they did, where it shows, Will in the Upside Down, inside his little hideout, and, running away from the Demogorgon, and eventually the Demogorgon finding him and putting him in this little lair where Vecna sticks one of his, little tentacles in his mouth to sort of, fill him with the darkness, as the case may be. But I like that this is the beginning of the end. This is the final season. There's going to be a lot of nostalgia-y. I mean, this show is dripping with nostalgia to begin with, but there's going to be a lot of nostalgia where it calls back to, the start of the series and where they've been and how long they've been on this journey. And so I thought it was really cool. It was one of my favorite things they did, was that they started the whole season out, this final season, with a little throwback to the beginning of the story, with the taking of Will Byers. And it was cool because they gave a perspective on the story that we hadn't seen before. So sort of like a little nugget of that abduction and all of the stuff that Will had to deal with while he was taken, and sort of seeing it from a fresh perspective. So I thought it was really cool. It was just the perfect amount of like, you were on edge and scared for him, and he's not going to succeed, but you're still like cheering for him, run, and but it was really, really good. I liked that. I thought that was a really good way to start the episode, start the season, sort of start you off on the right foot with nostalgia, which is what these guys are best at, is creating that sense of nostalgia. So yeah, that's my number one.
I like the opening scene too, although I think it's a little bit of a way it made just a bit of I think it's kind of a dangerous thing to do, because they clearly de-age Will.
They don't. If you watch the making of, it's
Oh, yeah?
it's a totally new actor.
Okay, so I was gonna say
that's what I thought that they did. I thought they either de-aged him or they like digitally put his face on some other kid. No. Watch the making of. Not only did they get a young actor who looked remarkably like Noah Schnapp when he was younger, but Noah was there and he helped coach him.
Okay.
Through the scene. It was really cool. So
okay. Well, I think the point though is I was going to make is still for me it still works because it shows just how old all these kids have gotten.
Oh God, yes.
Because you're like, wow, and I mean that's kind of like I almost put down for my first point was that seeing the gang, and I'm just going to use air quotes here, together in the high school, and I'm looking at them and I'm like, the only thing that these people should be doing in high school is teaching it. Because it's just like, and they make a point, and I'm cheating here because I know that this is not, it doesn't happen in this episode, but it does happen at some point that literally like they come up on I'm just going to use air quotes again, the 1 year anniversary from when Will was, abducted, when he disappeared. And I'm like, these people, and I'm just going to use the word people, they've aged way more than a year. You know what I mean? It's just, and this is like kind of the problem that any show runs into that casts kids in that age, when they're like, right around, 14, 15, is that they don't look like that for long.
Yes.
And it didn't help with this show that they had the huge gaps between the seasons while they were writing and kind of figuring out what they're going to do and then making it and all the post work they had to do and all that stuff. So, yeah. But I just think that kind of helped accentuate that point of like, yeah, these kids are really old right now.
I was going to say that, yes, I gave the tidbit that it was not a de-aged, blah, blah, blah. But here's the thing. I'll give you this caveat. I had to watch the making of thing to find that out. Until I watched that, I thought the same thing you did. I was like, oh man, what did they do? Did they either de-age him, or did they take like stock footage from when they filmed before and then
AI
CGI'd it or something? Oh yeah, or AI'd it. And it was nice to find out that they didn't do that, but I had to watch that making of documentary to find that out. So I totally understand.
Well, and for my money too, when I watched it the very first time I watched it, which again, this is going back to, after Thanksgiving, it was like, it may be like early December. And when the very first time I saw it, I'm like, who is this kid? Is this a new kid? You know what I mean? I didn't immediately make the connection that it was Will. And it was only when Vecna goes, we're going to do such beautiful things, William. I'm like, oh, okay, that's him. I get it now, because it just, he looked like him, but he didn't. And that's why I thought it was the de-aging thing, because the de-aging stuff so far, it's like the tech is there, but there are, from certain angles when they turn their heads and stuff, they don't look like them, at least to me. And so that's what I thought it was. And so then I'm thinking like, okay, so is Vecna taking like a new kid, and he's just, because, as we find out, he's abducting the kids and putting the tubes in their mouth and all that stuff. So I'm like, okay. And then it was only at the very end of that scene where I'm like, okay, I get it. Where they're kind of, like you said, they're showing like a little different perspective of what Will went through that, we had never seen before, because, and I don't mean to like say this in a mean way, it's because, the Duffer Brothers hadn't thought of it back then when they filmed it the first time. So anyway, I agree with you. I think it was really cool that the last season of the show, they start out by going all the way back to the first season of the show. Yeah, I thought that was cool.
It was cool. All right, so that's my number one. Let's talk about your number one.
All right, well, my number one actually it happens a little bit later in the show because after we get that kind of explosive beginning, like you said, there's like all of the kind of, hey, here's what we've been up to stuff,
Yes.
right? Where the kids are going to, like, everybody's living, with Nancy and her parents and Mike, and they're all crammed in their house, and of course, the dad's like, when are they leaving, and all that, and then we get Robin and the best and greatest character on the show, Steve, and they're at the radio station, and they're doing, and she's doing all of the expo dump and all that stuff, and we push through all that stuff, and then we get Murray shows up in the supply truck, and he drives up to the military checkpoint, and he's like, hey, how you doing? And he gives him his ID, and he says his name, and he goes, Austin Milbarge, and he rattles off some password or serial number or something, and they let him in, and I mean, it just tickled my heart because Austin Milbarge is the name of the character that Dan Aykroyd played in a movie from 1986, 85, 86 called Spies Like Us, which he made with Chevy Chase. And it's a comedy movie, and it just kind of, I appreciated the 80s tie-in. Right. I appreciated that it was actually chronologically correct, that, because this is taking place in 1987, and that movie would have already come out. And so,
Right.
he could have referenced it. I think it's a little weird that the soldier there is just sort of like, whatever. It's sort of like, really? You don't go to movies at all? Oh, okay. But anyway, I that just made me laugh out loud. And Murray is always good for comedy. He's very comic relief-ish in this whole show anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, that just made me laugh. Did you catch that, or were you like,
It's one of those things that it was pointed out somewhere.
Okay.
It didn't hit me. I mean, I've seen Spies Like Us a couple of times, but it's been a minute, and the name just did not. It didn't
stick.
punctuate.
Yeah,
it didn't stick.
gotcha.
But they are so good with getting, like, they've got a lot of obvious 80s throwbacks, but they do a lot of there's a lot of stuff for the people that are really like would remember something as small and hard to connect to an 80s movie as something like that. Like, it's there, and if you've seen the movie a bunch of times, you'll hit upon it. But if not, it's just a funny moment because Murray's a funny guy, and it's fine. But it's one of the things that this series has been so well known for, are those, nostalgic callbacks and things like that. So it's not surprising to me that it was something, and it just didn't hit me. I didn't know it. I didn't know that reference.
No, that's you're right. I mean, the whole show, every season, every episode, they cram stuff in there that it's all there, and I think they kind of do this sort of scattershot. It's not all horror, it's not all science fiction, it's just sort of 80s, and so different things will register to different people, because of your taste, your familiarity, what you were into. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So. But anyway, that was my number one. How about you? What was number two?
Number two, I would have preferred more like flashbacky stuff, but it's interesting how they used the idea of the morning squawk to be pretty much an exposition dump. I mean, it's used later as like the codes and all of that stuff to communicate to everybody. And I get that, but our first meeting with Rock and Robin and the Morning Squawk, it's sort of, hey guys, it's a beautiful Monday morning, and I'm gonna, and she's telling regular stories, but it's also catching you up on everything that's been going on, that, you find out that they are all locked down. They're in military occupied area. They can't leave.
Quarantine zone.
Yeah, exactly. That, like, but they're also not allowed to go by where, there's a big opening that was broken open into the Upside Down, and it's like a militarized zone, and they're not allowed in there, um, and the big cracks that happened in the earth, they covered those up with like these big metal plates, and the kids are sliding down them, and woo, and it's an interesting sort of way to get the whole exposition dump across. And then of course it ends with something cute, because it shows that Robin and the girl from band have they're an item, they're together. And so that's really cute. So yeah, I thought it was a cool sort of interesting way to do the catch up and have it make sense, like have it be like it makes sense to have for Robin's character to be this person, especially since she's always exhibited the nervous talking thing. So that would make her a fairly decent DJ, I think.
Yeah.
So she, I thought it did a good job. It worked out well. It's, her and Steve together as, hetero life partners for the rest of their lives, they're always going to be working together in some kind of job. So yeah, it was really interesting, as a way to get us all caught up. So yeah. That's my number 2.
I liked it. I agree with you too. I think they certainly could have given us some actually, rather than just have her talking about stuff, we could have actually seen some of it. That would have been nice. And when you look at the fact that there are only 8 episodes for this season, but several of them are multiple hours long. They easily could have stretched this into like 10, 12 episodes. Just on what they gave us. They could have edited some of these, 2-hour, 2.5-hour episodes into, those could have been, at least 2, maybe 3 separate episodes. So they certainly could have shot and shown some of that. So I agree with you there. The thing though that just for me, again, the nostalgia part was, watching them do the show and seeing Steve pull out all the old tape carts and plugging them into the cart machine and stuff. Because when I went to school, which was a year or two after, 87, would have been the next year is when I started on the college radio. That was what we had. That was the gear we used. And so very, very nostalgia for me, as she's talking and, he's queuing up the applause, cart for when she said something that, and then they like all of the, he's kind of like the producer of the show, right? And so he's got all these different carts that are labeled, and that's exactly how we labeled them, the same kind of like applause or like, broken glass or, laughter or whatever it was. And you kind of have a box of them sitting there, and, your cart machine would usually, much like theirs, it had like, room to like have 2 or 3 carts plugged in ready to play, and all that's on that cart is that sound. So it's it's literally like 5-10 seconds worth of tape, and it's like an 8-track cassette kind of a tape. For people who know what an 8-track is, for you younger folks, you can Google it and enjoy it. And so for me it just brought back just such memories of that whole process, because that's exactly, maybe not quite as chaotic as, how he's like running around and just barely finds the right cart and gets it in. You tried to be a little more organized and have things set up, and you had them all laid out in front of you so you could easily grab them, and, and you'd queue them up before, like more than like a second before you're going to play it like he was doing. But still, it was still very much what stuff I used to do. So I thought that was really cool about that scene.
Nice. All right. So that was my number 2. Let's talk a little bit about your number 2.
Oh, my number 2 is easy, and that's Linda freaking Hamilton. Oh my God. And it's just part of it is the personal thing because, I kind of had my odyssey to meet Linda Hamilton a few years ago.
Oh, it was an odyssey. I was there for it.
I know. I mean, that was the fan expo that we went to it together. I remember that, but we rarely saw each other.
Yes. Yeah. We were in the same space, I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
For quite a while.
Oh, yeah.
And
No, because you went off and you saw Mark Hamill and went shopping and went to the Artist Alley. I just stood in lines. That's what I did at that.
Forever.
Oh, yeah. And Linda Hamilton was no exception, where, I mean, they wouldn't even let me get in line. I'd purchased an autograph ticket, but the line was so long. They're like, you got to just come back. And if you can get in, you can get in. And I'm like, no. But, yeah. Anyway, I always loved Linda Hamilton, going back to, 1984 with the Terminator. And of course everything she's done since then. So huge fan, and I was very excited when I heard her voice, and I think I saw her name in the credits. I think she's listed right above Carla Buono in the credits. So I'm like, oh, Linda Hamilton's in this, cool. But then when I heard her voice and I saw that she was like the very cold and kind of cynical army doctor, I'm guessing, right? She's like, she's doing research and stuff in the Upside Down. I'm just like, ooh, this will be interesting. And I think overall I was kind of disappointed with what they ended up doing with that character. But for this first episode, I'm like, oh, this is going to be cool. I hope she's in it a lot. I hope we get to see her. And so the expectations were very, very high. And so that was number 2. I'm like, Linda freaking Hamilton. Yes.
Yeah. I think that was, this is probably this and maybe the next appearance or 2 of her are like some of the best stuff of her for the series, only because, and we'll get to it when we get to it, but yes, it was a little bit of a disappointment in how they handled her character, but that will be stuff to talk about to come. Like you said, for now, when you see her, and I had the same, I knew she was in this season, and I don't know, I know for the first episode, and I do this with streaming shows, when you get the opportunity to skip the opening credits. I usually do it, but I always watch it the first time to sort of get you into it. You want to see it, you want to get the feeling for like, what's the music they use, blah blah blah. And for this one, I know the music, I know the show, but I still let it play through. But I can't remember if I saw her name in the credits or not when I watched it. But then when they showed her, I was like, oh yeah, that's right, Linda Hamilton's in this one. And we didn't know, like, leading up to it, you just know Linda Hamilton will be appearing in, season 5, the final season, and you're like, okay, but as what? Like, is she, how does this figure in? We just didn't know until we saw her. And then seeing her, you're like, okay, so she's going to be some kind of military badass. She's got a great scene with great dialogue. And can I just say, it was in my notes up until the end, but what the hell is she dissecting?
Oh, no kidding.
It's a greatly structured scene, because it's a great introduction. It's a brand new character. We have no story, no backstory. We don't know who, Dr. K is at all just yet. And we just know she's affiliated with the military. And then, he comes in to tell them about, their failure with trying to locate, obviously they're looking for 11. And so he tells her about the failure and da-da-da. And she is so sarcastic and like cutting. And meanwhile, while she's doing that, she is slicing into the grossest, weirdest looking, I don't know, part of the Upside Down. It's not clear. Like, it's some kind of living, breathing organism. Connected with all of the stuff, but it's not clear exactly what it is. It's kind of like a blob, and it's on her desk, and but it's like, it's undulating,
Oh,
like
it's
pulsing
breathing. And bleeding and oozing.
And then she cuts it open, and then it's like got all the, it's so gross.
Yeah.
It's so gross, but it's so well done. And she's just like acting like it's no big deal.
Oh yeah,
you know, it's fantastic. So really, really great introduction for a character we had, high hopes, to see what she was going to bring about in this universe.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah.
For someone to come in this late in the game. So
what
cool.
I love is that they've got like in these glass cases, different parts of the Upside Down.
Yeah.
And like one of the like vine tentacle things ends up like mushing into the glass and kind of startling the soldier that comes in to tell her the great news that they failed the final 11. And it's so great because she's like, don't worry, it won't bite you, although it will occasionally strangle. I thought that was really fun, and I agree with you. I was like, wow, that because she has this kind of very like tired, jaded like performance.
Yeah.
Because she's like, because he's like, he tells her like we failed, and she's like, of course you did, because if you would have succeeded, your boss would have been here with confetti and a parade, and he would have been here personally to tell me that he did it,
Yeah.
and so you have this sort of like, and the fact that she's a doctor, she's he doesn't say colonel or general or major, it's doctor. And so my thought is like, okay, so this is another scientist, kind of like Paul Reiser and Matthew Modine, that the military has brought in to run this project, to do this project, right? Because those guys are gone, and so maybe she's like burned out by it and doesn't really want to be here, and it's just like, she's forced just like everybody else in the town is to be there. You didn't know, like you said, it was sort of like brand new. We were just being introduced to her, and so I like you, I was like very excited for it, because first of all, I love her. And second of all, I was really intrigued by that opening scene there of like, wow, I wonder where that's going to go. So
yeah, part of what makes it really intriguing is the fact that they're doing some kind of research or whatever it is, and where they are, they're in the Upside Down.
Right.
They have like a whole setup, like a little base that's on the inside, which is very interesting. That was another one of those things where I wish we could have seen where, like, when they made that decision, or when they were like, well, this is something we need to do if we're going to study it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we missed out on that, but we also get like the realization, like, I like the way they filmed it, where they're like, leave that area and sort of pan away, and you're like, oh god, it's all the stuff in the air, so they're in the Upside Down. So that's where this little research center is, which is really, really interesting, that they are inside the Upside Down doing all of that, sort of putting themselves in danger, in harm's way. So I thought that was a really cool way to start it out for her.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely agree. So,
all right, so next up, my number 3. I just wanted to make it clear, just in case you weren't aware.
Oh.
But just so you know, I think you should know, Dustin's a little angry.
What?
Yeah, he's like really angry. Like,
so you're saying he's come to terms with Eddie's death?
No, not at all. No. And what I thought was interesting is, Eddie is gone, but there were 2 characters that were missing this season that I think, one, did we need to have Argyle back? I don't know. But I think I was waiting the whole season to have Susie show up at some point, because of where Dustin was sort of emotionally. I was really hoping that there would be, and it didn't pan out. And I get it when you're pressed for time, et cetera, but in this first scene, this first like getting back to Dustin, he's clearly, having the hardest time with, they're working on these crawls at night or whatever, but it's, life has moved on. Otherwise, they're doing this sort of work, but it sounds like it's only happening every few weeks. So in between when they're doing that, it's just like, like nothing ever happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's really, really not able to move on, clearly. And he's being really defiant about it. He gives 0 Fs, as the kids say. Walking around wearing the Hellfire shirt when, the bullies have told him, don't wear it. And he's like, why wouldn't I wear it? And he's just, like the others say, he's antagonizing. It's like he wants the fight. He ends up getting beat up at the end of the episode, and it's like, you kind of feel like it's something he kind of wanted. Like he kind of needed it to sort of, get out all of his like emotions in that one scene. So yeah, newsflash, Dustin is angry.
Yes, he is. You know what? I agree. I concur with that. Yes. I think clearly what is really bothering him is the fact that, with the exception of like his little group of friends, everybody that's left in that town have painted Eddie as a monster, as a bad guy. And that just does not sit well with Justin because Dustin, not Justin. Because he knows, he was there, that, Eddie saved everybody.
Yes.
And he's a hero, and he wants that to be so. He so desperately wants everyone to know that, and nobody will believe him. No one will listen to him, and in fact, they're going the other way. Like when he goes out to the graveyard, and he sees that it turns out it's the bully has written on his tombstone that says like burn in hell or whatever it says, right?
Yeah.
And of course, it gets even worse because then he finds out the guy killed a snake and used the snake's blood, which is I mean that's just mean, right?
Right.
But I mean you get the sense though that the fact that he goes out there, he's got the acetone and the rags. It's like this is clearly something that happens a lot.
Yeah. This is a routine he is used to. That is for sure.
And so I think that certainly explains a lot of the anger, because you're right. Not only has everyone moved on from, and just it's back to normal, but like even his friends, they're not treating it the same way.
Yeah.
And that, so you're right. He is very angry, and I certainly have a bit of nostalgia there, because I, just like a lot of kids, I was bullied when I was a kid,
right.
So I can relate to that, but I hate to say this because it's, you never want to blame the victims, but if you look at this episode, he does kind of ask for it.
Oh God, yeah.
And I think you're right. I think it's like because he like wants to like have it out with these people, and he's like literally picking a fight with them, because he wears the shirt even after they said don't wear the shirt or we're going to beat the snot out of you, and then he puts the snake in the kid's locker, and writes whatever Hellfire lives or whatever he writes there, all that, which is like literally saying, hey, guess who did this?
Yeah, which was kind of stupid.
Right, it is, and so that and then it's like, well, yeah, you know what? You can't be surprised then when the bully and his 3 minions show up to beat the crap out of you later. So, but you're right, very much having a really hard time, like sort of rationalizing and kind of moving past what's happened with Eddie. So and I mean I know that we're only talking about episode 1, but I have a feeling that this theme might come up again for him.
yes it will.
And
it's interesting too, because this is really our first time getting them all together in a this is like absolute like entrenched teenagehood for these guys. Mm-hmm. So like, because was it the year before they were freshmen? The season before they were freshmen, I think. So they're like going into their junior year. You have to assume that there was some sort of like, okay, we're gonna hold these people back for school or something, because they probably didn't actually have school for quite a bit, so it's possible they're just like sophomores or whatever, but they're not. Now they're sort of entrenched in the high school life and teenagehood. And when that was happening before, they were separated because Will was out where he was, and Mike went on spring break and he went out to visit, so it was just Dustin and Lucas in one place. They also had Erica with them, and she's so much younger, and Steve and Robin were these older. So this is probably the first time we're getting all four of them together at their, I'm using air quotes here, current ages. And so this is them really leaning into, the hormones of teenagehood and stuff like that. And Dustin is finally there. And I think, too, the fact that Dustin has always been like the friendliest and kindest out of all of them, and the least likely to like start a fight or do any of those things, I think that makes it that much more profound that it's him, that he's going through all of this stuff. So, yeah. So there you go. So that's my number 3.
All right. Well, and you know what? I think it was a good one, because you're right. The boy definitely had some anger in him.
Got some anger issues. All right, so let's talk about your number 3 then.
All right, so yeah, this to me, without a doubt, is this is right here a life lesson, people. Okay, there's just no doubt. We find out that 11 is training. Right, she's running this like obstacle course and using her mental powers to like blow up pumpkins and stuff, and jumping over buses and doing all kinds of craziness. And we find out that it's Hopper has told her that she has to get under a certain time before he will let her come with him into the Upside Down to look for Vecna, and she is like obsessed with this training thing. And so we see her like finish a run, and she's like 2 or 3 seconds faster than the time he is set. I think it's like 12 minutes and 30 seconds, isn't that it?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And she's at like 12:32 or something, which is, and they say like Winona Ryder's there, and she's like, this is the fastest you've ever done this. And he's like, hey, let's go make some waffles and watch Miami Vice and celebrate. And she's like, I want to go again. And so she's like, no, she just wants to do this. She's super, super focused because she wants to get Vecna. She wants to end this. She wants to kill Henry, all that stuff. And so they set it up again. And so they're running the obstacle course. And right in the middle of it is when Robin starts playing the Upside Down song from Diana Ross. Right. Because that's kind of like their a code that, okay, something important is happening, and the people in the know, who apparently are always listening to the radio for her, they then can write down the code words that she's saying, the numbers, and she can pass the information along. And so because this happens right in the middle of her run, 11, when she finishes, she's like, oh my God, I totally did it. I shaved like 3 seconds off. And he's like, I didn't see it. And she's like, what do you mean? He's like, well, Diana Ross, the song came on, and I was busy writing down the information that was being passed over. I wasn't looking at the stopwatch, so it doesn't count, basically. And this pisses off 11 to no end, right? And and she's like, she keeps like starts yelling at him, it's not fair, it's not fair. And this is where Hopper, again, this is like life wisdom right here, people. All right, for everyone, you could use this in any situation. I think it will get you out of. And that Hopper basically looks at her and goes, she's super angry, and Hopper goes, so blame Diana. And I'm like, yeah, I am right there with you, man. And so I
dare you.
I channeled my inner Jack Torrance from The Shining, where I went, words of wisdom, Mr. Hopper, words of wisdom. So yeah,
terrible.
It is. It was the best line in the whole show, right there.
How dare you? You're the worst.
Hey,
Okay.
Don't blame me.
Yeah.
Blame Diana. So.
Yeah. Well, anyway. How dare you? So let's move on to our number 4s. So for me, I put in it was very questioning. And I want to say for clarity, some of my notes that I have here are like question marks, like I don't know how this is gonna pan out, because when I watched the episodes the first time, I was very smart. I just opened up the notes app on my phone, and if I had a couple of thoughts like, what's that going to be? How is that going to work out? What is happening here? I plugged them down and just wrote them down really quick. Nothing crazy, but just like some first thoughts. Because I knew that we were going to be covering this after we had, like we're looking at episode 1 right now, and we know how the series ends. So I wanted to make sure that I had some notes in there that were very like, these were my thoughts when I first watched the episode, and they weren't changed by or influenced, as it were, by the end. And this is one of them. I was so confused, not confused, I guess I was surprised, because it was our first time sort of seeing this, but it becomes clear. At first, it's not quite so clear what's going on with Will, but he is having some reactions again. And then it becomes clear that he is like inside the mind of the Demogorgon. Now, we get more detail on this later, like what this actually is. But your first reaction is, so he's able to be inside the mind of the Demogorgon, at least at how we see it. And I thought that it was, and we talk about, the Duffers borrowing from this movie and that movie and this TV series and this book and, from Dungeons and Dragons directly and all of that. And this felt very Harry Potter. Harry Potter had his whole thing where he was, attacked by, this bad guy, this bad wizard, and he eventually had this ability to be able to sort of be inside that wizard's mind and sort of see where he was and what was going on with him later on. And no spoilers, but you find out some reasons why that's happening later on in the Harry Potter series. But in the beginning, you're like, what is this? And I feel like this was my sort of moment with that, is it's not fully explained, like, why is it? You get that little scene at the beginning where you see that Will is sort of plugged into, Vecna's, I guess you could call it like his, like, black thoughts or whatever, because we're never really clear what it is that's going in to his mouth, like through that tube. But it's clearly affected him, and it makes him react to, anytime he's been near Vecna or whatever, he's always had that thing with like the back of his neck that he could sort of sense when something was happening. And so we've had hints of this, but this is the first time we're seeing it from inside Will's head and seeing what's happening. And he literally is inside that Demogorgon while it's attacking the convoy when it's inside the Upside Down. So it's a really surprising turn of events, and I thought it was really cool and really different. And when I had my very first reaction to it, I was not confused, but I wanted to be like, I can't wait to find out more about this. Like, why is it happening? How is this happening to Will? And I hope that they talk about it more. And spoiler, they do.
They do, yes.
They do. Yes. But this was my very first like reaction to it. So yeah, my number 4, Will is in the Demo's mind? Question mark?
Question mark?
Which is exactly how I wrote it in my notes app. Was with the question mark. What is happening? So yeah.
Yeah,
number 4.
I like this development too, just because, oh my God, they finally gave through Will a frickin' bone. Will has just been, he's been the victim this whole series. And all of his buddies are running around doing all the fun stuff and fighting the monsters and all that, and he's just sort of like, help me, I mean, so I felt good for the character, I felt good for the actor. It's like, hey, they're gonna give you something to do, man, way to go,
Yeah. Good for you.
Well, yeah, it's nice, because why does everyone else get to have all the fun,
Right.
I mean, it's almost like it's sort of like they kind of went, well, we only have so much action to give to people, so we're gonna give all of Sadie Sink's action to you for this season, because
we're one actor down.
Right, so, but the whole concept of he can see what what Vecna sees, or he can see what the Demogorgons can see, he kind of have those sort of connection psychically, is certainly something that's been done not just in Harry Potter, but just in general in sci-fi
sure.
and fantasy. So it's not an original concept, but I think it's really a very smart one from the Duffer Brothers, because again, it's sort of like, and I don't know if this is the right word, but it kind of rewards Will for all the crap he's gone through on this show. You know what I mean? Like all the suffering and the torture and the pain. It's like, this is like the one positive thing he's gotten out of it, is that he now becomes very important to their success.
Absolutely.
Because of the ability of him to see, what kind of not into just what the plans are of the enemy, but like actually see, like, what are they looking at right now?
What are their actions, like the current actions?
Yeah.
What are they doing?
And in this one, obviously it's, he sees that the Demogorgon is going to Nancy's house and Mike's house, and without that, they would have never had any clue that was going to happen, and would never be able to try and get over there and try and contact them and do all the things that happens at the end of the episode, right? When Nancy, which, I mean, oh my God, Nancy, like, why is she just not, wearing like the Rambo outfit? I mean, she is so the badass military, take no prisoners, like fighter in this whole season, and she's just that moment when when Winona Ryder slaps him and wakes him up and kind of brings him out of it, right? Yeah. And he looks up and he's like, I saw where they're going, and they're like, where? And like his response is he just looks at Nancy.
Yeah.
And she's just like, oh no.
Yeah.
Because like basically, without exception of Mike, everybody she cares about, well, Mike and what's his name, her real life boyfriend, I mean, everybody she cares about is in that house.
Yep.
And so she's just like, oh no, and so then boom, she's going out. But you're right, I really thought that was a cool idea to kind of finally give Will a chance to contribute in a way that nobody else can. That's unique and that's different, and it almost kind of rivals 11 in what he can do, which again I thought was really cool. So I agree with you. That was an interesting point, and you're right. They're definitely going to talk about it more as we go along. But for right now, you're kind of like, okay, I kind of get what they're doing, but I need a little bit more.
But I want more. Yeah.
And rest assured, it's coming. So
yeah. All right. So let's talk your number 4.
Yeah, my number 4. We get let's be honest, this season you could certainly sum up as the Holly season.
Oh, sure.
And I think that's partly because all of the normal main cast members, they look like they should be attending their 10-year high school reunion, not so much be in high school. And so the Duffer Brothers went, we got to get a kid in this show that looks like they're a kid. And so they go and get Holly, and she's adorable. And we kind of get her whole backstory, and she's talking to her imaginary friend, and all that stuff's happening. And so the parents get called in to talk to the teachers because the teachers see her like talking to nobody, and that's weird, and what's going on. And I'm kind of thinking when that's happening, like, really, with everything that's happened in this town in like the last 8 months, you're gonna call
this is weird for you.
This is the thing that's like, we should have a conference. But anyway, she's very upset by this. that, you know, that basically her teachers and by default her parents think she's weird. And so she's kind of, you know, got her nose in the Wrinkle in Time book, which I thought was a nice little touch as well from the 80s nostalgia. And Mike comes in and finds her, and she's, you know, upset, and she says that she's scared, and he says, you know, I'm scared too. And she's like, no, you're not. And then he goes, yeah, I am. But when I get scared, and he pulls out this little hand painted miniature that he uses from D&D. And he says, whenever I'm scared, and I'm trying, what is his miniature? It's Mike the something. He had a name
remember.
for it. And he goes, you know, he's this badass fighter, and you know, whenever I'm scared, I just, you know, pull him out, and he's next to me, and I know he'll protect me. And then he takes out another miniature that he painted for her, and he calls it Holly the Heroic. And and it's a real sweet story, and he kind of says that, you know, I was going to wait a year or two till you get a little bit older, but I think this is just as good a time as any. And he explains that, you know, that this Holly the Heroic is a cleric, which means she can heal and she can protect people. And, you know, if you're ever scared, you just, you know, look at Holly the Heroic, because she will protect you and keep you safe. And it's a real cool kind of brother sister moment.
Yes.
You know, of the big brother kind of like, you know, saying, hey, you know what, I was there too, and I'm just as freaked out, and, you know, here's something that'll help you, it'll help me, that kind of thing. Yeah. And also, I think, you know, again, the Duffers are setting us up to like, okay, does that mean Holly might play a more, I don't know, vital part of this season? Maybe? I don't know. Maybe, you know. So, but yeah, I thought that moment in the school that the two of them have, it's a real quiet moment.
It's cute.
And yeah, and he gives it to her, and you can tell that it really like means a lot to her.
Yes.
That you know, first of all, that he would ever think of including her in all of his reindeer games with his buddies, which is kind of the that's what I took from it, was that, you know, without all the craziness going on, when she got to be like a year or two older, like, what do you think Holly is in this, like 10, maybe 11?
I think I read somewhere that the whole, like, logistically and within the show, she's supposed to be about 8 or 9.
8 or 9, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And so I think he's going, you know what, I was going to wait till you were like 10 or 11, just a little bit more mature, you know, a little bit grown up, just a little bit more, and then introduce you to D&D, and have you participate. And I just think the fact that he said that, you know, he would want to include her in, you know, because I'm sure for, you know, the last couple of years, the very normal thing is all of his friends come over, they go down in the basement, and they, you know, hang out and apparently have a great time, but it's sort of like this, you know, forbidden, you're not allowed down here kind of thing for her.
Right.
And the fact that he would be willing to invite her into that, I think really, you know, meant a lot to her. And
yes,
as well as the whole, you know, here you have something that when you're afraid, you can kind of grab it and hold it in your hand and think about it, and hopefully that will help calm you down and get you through it and all. So I really thought that was a really cool little moment. Again, very short, very quick, and quiet. You know, there's not monsters and upside down and all that. It's just these two people having this conversation. But I thought that was really, really sweet and nice.
And just a cute, like, brother-sister moment. And the thing is you go back and you watch, Holly is in every season. She's in every season. She's there, you know. And there's some really good stuff with Holly in the very first season, because she's the first one, and it's interesting that happens in this episode as well, which we'll talk about right now, because we both have sort of like the same scene as our number 5. But
oh, yes.
Holly is the one that discovered the blinking lights, because she went into the other room and was like, or she didn't quite discover them. I'm sorry, I take that back. But she sort of wandered into Will's room and found, like, where Joyce had she followed the lights down the hallway because she was interested. And so it's interesting that she had that experience in the first season, and then that's sort of how things get ramped up for Holly in this season. we get, and that's my number 5 is just Holly with Holly
Holly
with exclamation.
Yeah.
And so we get this really great action sequence at the end of the episode, really good sort of cliffhanger end of the episode, and Holly's doing her little kid things and is in her room, and one of the lights is blinking. And please tell me that when you were watching it like I was, as soon as it started to blink, you're like, no, run away.
Yep, get out of there. Get that. Yeah.
And we already know from the previous scene that the demo is on its way to the Wheeler house.
Mm-hmm.
So that's happening. We also know that Mr. Wheeler is outside hitting golf balls, so he's very checked out. That Karen is drinking.
Oh boy, finishing off that bottle of wine, baby.
She drank some wine, and so we know that nobody's really paying attention to Holly right now. She's upstairs, but you and I, as kids of that generation, were like, yeah, but that was par for the course. You were in your room and your parents were doing whatever. They just knew that you were sort of like, in a general sense, you were home.
You were somewhere in the house, at least.
You were not
right?
being observed.
No,
at all.
Yes.
So Holly's up in her room. She's doing, her little kid things, and then the lights start to blink. And I love the connection to the previous season when it's like, it's her, because first it's her night light. Mm-hmm. And she pulls it out of the wall and it's still blinking, even though it's not plugged in. And I'm like, yeah, that's a sure sign for run.
That run now, run.
Yeah. And then there's some other lights that are blinking, and then the camera kind of pans back to show the side of her room, and the light bright is there.
There's
which
the light
figured
bright.
very prominently in the previous season. So we got all of these lights are going mad, and then you see the ceiling start to, like, the ceiling starts to move and it starts to cave in, and then we get your number 5.
Yeah, that literally, like coming out of the ceiling, like crafting an opening, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is something I again, I didn't rewatch the whole series, so a lot of the details of the first 4 seasons are definitely a little fuzzy to me. I was not aware that the Demogorgons had the ability to create their own, sort of openings between the two worlds.
I think they never used to have that ability.
Okay.
I think they could. Remember in Will's house, there was like, they kind of came up against the edge and leaned.
Yeah.
Like they pressed themselves in, but they couldn't quite make it in. I think they're able to cut their way through. There's some explanation for it. And as we're rewatching back through, I feel like they make a point of saying that's why this was able to happen. And they talk about it at some point.
Okay.
So I think it gets explained, like, why that's possible, because this is the first time it's happened. We haven't seen that sort of, but it's interesting that, like, they've been in this state, this sort of post-attack from Vecna state for like 18 months, and nothing's happened, and now all of a sudden everything happens tonight.
Right, yeah, something's cranked up. Yeah, because the other big plot development is that Hopper, like, sneaks aboard. The military is sending this supply convoy to Linda Hamilton's little base in the Upside Down, and we find out that the whole group, when this happens, he like sneaks on board, and then he like is like grid searching the Upside Down trying to find Vecna. And what is this, like the 37th one that they've done? And he literally, at one of his lines when he's under there or getting ready to go in is like, I've done this over 30 times, and the only thing I've ever found is soldiers. So so all of the denizens of the Upside Down have vanished since seemingly the kids, killed Vecna at the end of last season.
Right.
And I think, the coolest character in the show, Steve Harrington, he points out at one moment, it's possible that Vecna's dead. And they all kind of look at him and he's like, what? Like, we've seen nothing, there's been no trace, you know, Will's hair on the back of his neck doesn't stand up, and L11 can't see him when she goes in the salt baths, like, she was able. So it's just like he's gone, and it's like maybe it's because he's dead, maybe it's because we killed him, and all of that, and so there kind of is that possibility, and you're right, and then of course, because this is the new season, when he goes in this time, no, actually, this is when stuff's going to start getting cranked up again, because that same Demogorgon that comes through the ceiling, like, takes out everybody in the military convoy except him. And the only reason it doesn't take out him is that he doesn't know that he's there.
Yes, he's very hidden.
Yeah. Yeah, and so anyway, yeah, I was unaware though that like I said, I could not remember them doing that. So I thought, wow, that's an interesting development that they now have the ability to force their way into our world, which is scary. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
And I think too, the other thing about the whole sequence with Holly is that it isn't, like, right before that, doesn't she, like, come down the steps and she overhears Mom and Dad talking about her and how weird she is?
Yeah.
And so that, like, sends her into a tizzy. And again, like you said, she's like 8. Yeah. So, I mean, it's pretty tough when, it'd be tough, now for me to hear my parents say that kind of stuff about me, but back then it'd be even worse. And so she's, like, kind of up in her room, kind of sulking a little.
Yeah, she is.
And crying, and, like, she's looking, she eventually, like, doesn't she put the miniature onto, like, a necklace or something, and she, like, is like focusing all her energy on that, and at that point, that's when the lights start going all light bright crazy. And I think just the effects, the visual effects of the Demogorgon, like, literally ripping the ceiling apart, and then like coming through the, like, fibery, tentacly, like, wall that separates the Upside Down from our world, and there it is, and then it screams or growls or whatever it does. I mean, that's just a terrifying image, and the fact that you have an 8-year-old who, can't really defend herself, right? I mean, she's 8. Yeah. What's she gonna do? It's even more terrifying, right? And this show is not squeamish about killing young people.
Nope.
So, that I much like the kind of the salad days of The Walking Dead, where, like, you would watch an episode and you're like, there's a really good chance that some of these people are going to be dead.
You may not see these people ever again. Maybe their swan song.
Right, and when you look back to this show, and the horrible injustice done to Barb at the very beginning, right? I didn't think she was gonna die, but at the same time, it wouldn't have surprised me,
Right.
So yeah, I was definitely, I'm like, well, that's not good, like, when it ends, you're, sometimes when they do cliffhangers, you're like, yeah, they're totally gonna get out of it, you know what I mean? And you're just like, I'm not worried. Here I was worried.
Yeah, it's especially since, for me, when they showed that they were going to be centering on Holly for much of the season, I was like, okay, well, this is their out, because what it is we can't kill any of these other characters because people are so connected to them, but could we kill the younger sister of one of the main characters? Sure, why not?
Absolutely.
And wouldn't it have been really tragic if it's, a kid? So when she's introduced and they make it, she's pretty centered in this episode, you're like, okay, this is not going to work out very well. Like, on paper, it doesn't certainly look very good. So yeah, this whole scene, it was a really great return, I think, for the Duffers to creating that tension at the end of a scene, and like you said, like, this is, it gets explained at some point, but at this point, this has broken the rules. We've never seen a Demogorgon break through from the Upside Down into the regular world, like, to sort of go across those worlds. we've seen them come out of the hole at the research lab, and then they made it out onto the streets of Hawkins like that way. But this was them tearing their own hole.
Yeah.
In the laboratory, they had their own way to exit. This, he made his own exit, which is not something we've seen before. Which you're right. It was jarring. But what a great way to end that episode, right? With it just crawling through that ceiling, and it just so well done.
Well, and like you said, Dad's checked out outside knocking golf balls with the 9-iron, and Mom is literally polishing off like the jumbo economy size bottle of wine that the dad has already accused her. Like, what is that, number 2, number 3? So she's had like multiple glasses of wine. And so parents not caring, not watching, not being responsible. And you have literally, she's like, Mom, like when the ceiling starts like getting, torn up and stuff, she's like, hello, a little help here, and there's just, you just know there's nothing coming from them, that by the time the parents are clued into something's wrong, it's probably going to be too late.
Yeah. But it's a really great start.
It is. It's a good start.
And I think that just to talk just another second about that scene though, it's also like I was saying, that it's sort of the start of the episode with sort of getting to know where we are again. Not everybody did a rewatch like I did. Getting everybody sort of acclimated, throwing in some exposition. Where are we? Where have we been? And then to sort of, in my opinion, they could have handled some of that better with like flashbacky stuff, made it a little more engaging, but they really sort of like from the beginning to here, what a difference, to end the episode on such a just a high note of, scared, horror, creepy, you're on the edge of your seat. You can't wait. They do it exactly what they wanted to, which is they dropped those 3 episodes and they set up episode 1 so that as soon as it was over, you were like, episode 2, episode 2, episode 2, episode 2, episode 2.
Play. Yep.
Right. Yep. Hit play.
Don't even wait for the Netflix, like going to episode 2 thing, the bar to complete. You're like, nope, do it now.
Do it now. And what's funny is I literally, like, I did that and I hit pause so that I could, like jot down thoughts like I said I was going to, because I wanted to make sure to get first thoughts down before we jumped into how this would all resolve in the next episode. But what a great end. Let's talk quick our honorable mentions, which hilarious because we both sort of went down the musical road, which I just wanted to mention too. We've always talked about how great the soundtracks are for Stranger Things. They've always done such a great job of taking a song that you hadn't thought of in maybe a couple of decades and bring it back out to the forefront. I mean, clearly you can't say enough about how Kate Bush came back out because of the song, the Running Up This Hill. So they are very good at taking a great older song and throwing it in there. And I just thought it was a really great way to throw in something with a different flavor. And they got really funky with including Diana Ross's Upside Down. And to include a song with the title of the place that it's all about, I mean, it's very like all like, ties up nicely with a neat little bow. I get it, but I still loved it. It didn't matter. And again, centering a lot of the story around like music and nostalgia like they always have, they go right back to that, which I thought was great. How about you? What's your little honorable mention there?
Mine's also music related, but I just want to take this moment to I want to agree with Robin that I like The Wiz, and if you're unfamiliar with it, it is this kind of a Motown version of The Wizard of Oz, which did star Diana Ross, and Michael Jackson does play the Scarecrow, and Nipsey Russell is the Tin Man, if you remember Nipsey Russell from back then. So it's a really interesting kind of different take on the Wizard of Oz. So I don't know what streaming service, if any, it's on. I know it's like back in musical form in theaters, some places. I don't know if it's on Broadway or wherever, but anyway, I don't know if you remember that or not. You might be a little too young because that came out in the late 70s.
No, I've seen The Wiz.
Okay, so yeah, so you are familiar, yeah. But anyway, so Robin, like a lot of like the code that they transfer the information to all their buddies about during that radio sequence. She's basically giving facts about the movie and about Diana Ross, and so yeah, I just wanted to say that yes, Robin, I concur with you. But my honorable mention is the mixtape that Lucas has for Max, because like one of the reveals at the end of the episode, or close to the end of the episode, everyone is like, "Where's Max? What happened to Max? We haven't seen Max." And out of all the kids, she's the one we don't see. She's not there, and it turns out it's because she's in a coma. Hate when that happens. She's in the hospital somewhere, and Lucas and I think Will are like going to visit her, and you get the idea that Lucas goes there quite a bit because they're kind of a thing, an item, right?
Yeah.
And Will decides he's gonna go get a Coke, and so he leaves, and before he does, he hands Lucas this cassette tape, which again, the nostalgia of cassette tapes, right? We all remember taping songs off the radio, and if you had like the stereo with the turntable and the tape deck, you could like record songs from your records onto the cassettes you'd buy from the Walgreens, and you could literally make your own mixtape, which is that whole thing. I think it's definitely a lost art, right? It's something that nowadays the young kids are like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? But back then it was a thing, right? It was when you made a mixtape for someone, it's because you liked them.
Yes, it took a lot of work to make a mixtape. So there was you don't understand like the time and the effort and the choosing
it's the choosing though. It's because every song is like it's like a roadmap to my heart. I mean, it's like conveys your feelings to oh my God, I just remember. I remember just hours and hours of constructing these stupid cassettes.
There's a really great episode. There's a really great scene in the movie High Fidelity where the character Rob Gordon talks about making the perfect mixtape. It's all about like the selection of the songs and all of that stuff. So it's a really great little monologue in the movie where he's talking like right to the camera all about it. So if you've never seen it, it's a great movie to begin with. But on top of it, just that whole scene where he's talking about making a mixtape is great.
Yeah, Cusack's great in that movie. But anyway, so he puts the tape in, and of course it's not really I'm kind of fibbing. It's not technically a mixtape. It's a tape. It's a homemade tape because it's not like the album tape, the one that you'd buy at the record store. But it has the Kate Bush song on it, which obviously is the anchor that Max used to remain within this world, in the previous, stories. And obviously he's playing it because he's hoping it will lead her back, right? And bring her out of the coma. But the thing I thought was great, and this is kind of the mixtape element to me, is that on the spine of the plastic box that the cassette is in, he is handwritten, which is what you did. He is written for Max, and that just again tugged on the nostalgia strings quite heavily, because I remember buying those blank cassettes, and when you bought them, they had on the box, they had this card, and the part that was showing, so the plastic was clear, had the manufacturer's name, if it was a Sony cassette or a TDK or whatever. And when you got them, you'd open them up and you'd take out that card and you would flip it to the backside, and it was blank, and you could write either the songs that were on it, or on the spine you could write, something, whether it's an album or an artist or formats or whatever. And so I love that little attention to detail. That is, if you're from that era, you're like, yeah, that's how it was.
God.
So,
yes.
So yeah.
Yes. And I don't know why, but for some reason, as the 80s moved on, I can't explain it, but for some reason there was that one Memorex blank tape that you could get that was clear, but had like the yellow and purple like swoosh accents on it. For some reason, that was the best tape to get. And, who cares about the quality or whatever, that was like the superior one to give as your mixtape.
Well, okay, first of all, I mean, all of the tape was crap for listening to, because 60% of the sound was hiss.
Right.
Because it's a terrible medium for like listening. That was the thing that clearly this show doesn't get into in terms of happening, but for all of us that had cassette tapes like that, when CDs showed up, we were like, oh my God, this is what the music sounds like. Because it was just you would hit play and you just hear this, just this hiss. It was terrible. So, but you're right. I remember that, and it was not necessarily the best quality tape, but everybody wanted it because it
cool.
looked awesome. Yeah.
Yes.
So yes. Absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
Well, that's gonna wrap it up for our moments. I think we did a good job.
I think so too. We really kept it, kept it tight and together. We stuck the landing here.
I think we did really well, and I hope we will get some feedback on it and let people tell us how we did. But in the meantime, we are going to take a quick break. But when we come back, we will discuss all of our listener feedback and also what's coming up on the podcast.
So stick around, because we'll be right back.
The following is an emergency action message. Civil authorities have identified a biological threat that they deem credible. This threat could potentially affect the entire continental United States.
The dead are returning to life and attacking the living.
911, what's your emergency?
There's a man off bed and he's attacking another man. Looks like he's biting him, like on the arm.
The initial signs are puzzling, unclear.
Getting pulled out of their cars and thrown to the ground. It looks like the bus passengers are biting their victims.
Soon, however, the reality is clear and undeniable.
The crisis involving the recently dead continues. Parliament today passed a law that requires all bodies of the recently deceased to be registered and turned...
Toxic Bag Productions has captured the sounds of the zombie apocalypse and brought them to your gaming table. Background ambiences, zombie attacks, and radio transmissions that set the scene for your modern zombie adventure. Download MP3s from drivethrurpg.com or toxicbag.com.
Hey there, this is Greg Nicotero, and you're listening to Aim for the Head podcast with Diana and Steve. And don't forget to always aim for the head, because body shots, they really just don't work.
All right. Hey, everyone. We are back. And this is the point where we jump into our listener feedback, where we get to hear what you guys have to say. And then we also talk about what's coming up next on the podcast, as well as just what's going on in general in the crazy apocalyptic / horror entertainment universe that we live in. Yes. So let's kick it right off with our feedback. We got some I don't know, kind of sad feedback, but it's still feedback.
Yes, feedback nonetheless.
Yes, from our pal Erica Price. Hello, Erica. And she sent us in via the Facebook, and she goes, "Alas, I never was interested in this show." And she writes gasp in air quotes, and she goes, "Sorry, but I'll check back, and when you cover something else I watch. Have fun." So it's sad. We will miss you, Erica. And that's the great thing about art, is that it's not for everybody, has different views on it, and people like stuff that other people don't. And for every Mona Lisa, there's a Black Velvet Elvis. That's just the way that it works. And hopefully the next thing we cover, whatever it would be, will spark your interest.
Yeah. Hey, it sparked someone's interest, because I shared something on I took one of our podcast posts, and every now and then I'll share them like personally, And I figured, Stranger Things has a really wide reach. So I was like, oh, I'll reach out and see if anybody who maybe doesn't follow the podcast, maybe someone's got some thoughts on the show. And my mom saw it.
Uh-huh.
And my mom was like, I watched that very first episode a long time ago and it didn't care for it, but I figured I'd try it again when I saw your thing. So she just literally made it through all of season 1 and is gonna get started. She was like, is Stranger Things 2 a different cast? Or like, what's that? And I was like, that's season 2. There's 5 seasons. And I was like, go with God and watch these shows. Like, enjoy yourself. So I don't know. Maybe she's going to listen later. Maybe I have to tamp it down and, not say anything, mean or untoward about my mother. Hi, Ma. Love you.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's adorable that she's watching the show, and I think it's adorable that she thinks the second season has a different cast.
Right.
I'm really hoping she'll write in.
Yeah. She said, is it a sequel? I think that's is it a sequel? Or is it, I think that's what her confusion was. Is it like was it going to be different people or whatever?
Right, yeah.
Because she didn't know.
Yeah.
What does she know?
Well, I mean, again, I can see Stranger Things. It's kind of like, it's similar in the title style of like the Twilight Zone or the Outer Limits, that you could see it being an anthology kind of a setup where it's like every season is a different story that's just about, bizarro things going on. So I'm not completely out of the realm, but I think it's adorable.
I do too.
I think we have to have her as a guest.
I'm going to respectfully not say anything right now. Anyway.
Okay.
If you think that she could get a good enough internet connection in the middle of the backwoods of Maine, then you make it happen, sir.
All right. I just want to hear her say the word Worcester.
She won't. Because she'll call it Worcester.
Worcester.
That's how you say it.
Worcester.
If you want some really good, by the way, some good Bostonian stuff, I listened to Conan's podcast, Conan Needs a Friend, and Dennis Leary was on, and it's hilarious. They just get very Boston. It's good stuff. Right. I love it. All right, so next up, we got some feedback from friend of the podcast and friend to Diana and Steve, Mr. Michael Brownlee.
Michael Brownlee?
I think the last time we saw Michael Brownlee in the flesh, we met at a cemetery.
I believe we did. Yes, we did indeed. And we had French fries with gravy on it.
We did, and that was a delightful meal.
It was.
So when we went to the Days of Dead convention 2 years ago?
It was Living Dead Weekend.
Living Dead Weekend, yeah. Sorry, not Days of Dead. Living Dead Weekend,
which 2022.
Which is at the Dawn of the Dead?
Yes.
Dawn of the Dead mall. I always get dawn and day mixed up. I wish that it was like night, morning, afternoon. That'd be so much easier. Anyway,
11 Z's of the Dead.
The 11 Z's of the Dead. So we went to the convention, which is just outside of Pittsburgh, and then we were posting about it on social media. And our old pal that we used to do theater with, Michael Brownlee, I guess lives really close by to that, and we just did not know that. So we met and had lunch and hung out, and it was great to see him. And now he's writing in for the podcast, and I don't even know what to do with myself.
Yeah, he lives very close to where they filmed the cemetery sequence from the Tom Savini remake of Night of the Living Dead, which is like south of Pittsburgh. So and we happened to be posting that, hey, we're going to be going to this thing. We're going to go to the mall. We were going to go up to Evans City, which is where the Night of the Living Dead, the original cemetery is, and where the farmhouse was, is where they shot all that. And he's like, hey, you know what? You guys should stop in and see me. And by the way, and so we were like, ooh, really? And so, yeah, I remember we were standing in a graveyard when he came running up to us, and it was really fun. It was great to see him again.
And happy belated birthday to Brownlee, because it was his birthday yesterday.
Yesterday or Saturday, yeah, it was just happened. So yes, happy birthday, Michael
happy
Brownlee.
birth! To celebrate his birth, he decided to send us in feedback. So let's go ahead and go there. So in response to my reach out to Facebook friends, Michael Brownlee wrote about Stranger Things episode 1. Overall, it was good. I feel like the military storyline was pretty weak throughout. I feel like maybe thoughts on the whole series, it feels like. And Linda Hamilton felt wasted to me. I mean, they're desperate to find Elle, but they aren't monitoring any of her last known associates who operate the radio station, conveying coded messages and wandering through the tunnels that no one else knows about. And he uses as a scratching your chin emoji. And he says, but I was invested in those pesky kids so that I overlooked a lot. Like the whole Russian storyline of seasons 3 and 4, smelling vaguely of jumped shark. But the Robin, Steve, Dustin combo was so great. So what are you going to do? I agree with a lot of that. I think, and as we talk more about the season, as we get into it, I think one of the things I realized was any slight, small, large, big, whatever disappointments I may have as we go through talking about these episodes, I still enjoyed the hell out of them because I love these characters, love this world that they set up, and I knew that this was going to be my last bit with them. So I was just trying to savor all of that as much as I could. And I'm right there with you, Brownlee, that, you're invested in the kids, so you forgive a lot when there's stuff that maybe you're like, does that make sense or not or whatever? And I agree. I thought that it was interesting that they were able to send out these coded messages and no one had quite figured it out yet. But hey, we allow for a lot, suspension of disbelief and all of that. So yeah. But thanks for writing in, Brownlee. We loved hearing from you. Yeah. Loved getting your feedback. And maybe we'll hear from you further along and with other episodes.
We'll have to see. And yeah, I agree. I particularly the thing about the Russian storyline, I thought that was just utterly ridiculous. And don't get me wrong. I know how weird and foolish that sounds when you think about what this show's about, and like that's the thing I got hung up on. But my kind of approach to any of these genre, whether they're movies or shows or whatever, is whatever your crazy wibbly wobbly timey wimey fantastic science concept is, the upside down or time travel or aliens or whatever that is, or the dead are rising from the grave and eating people. I'm totally on board. I will totally go along with it, but everything else in the world has to make sense to me and be real.
Right.
And I'm sorry, I just cannot wrap my brain around how somehow the Russians in 1986 built a massive military base underneath the shopping mall in the middle of the United States and had it staffed by uniformed Russian army guys. I'm like, no, there's no way that could happen, So
I love your response. No,
I'm sorry. So yeah, I'm right there with you. And I would almost go further with your invested line, where I would just kind of bring in the Scooby-Doo line, which is I would have given up on this show a long time ago if it hadn't been for those meddling kids.
Yeah.
Because I would have, because the as the seasons went on after the first one, it really kind of got more and more ridiculous,
Right.
But you're right. It was I enjoyed this group so much, that I'm as much as I'm not really enjoying some of the storytelling, I'm gonna keep watching it because I got to see what's gonna happen.
Exactly.
Yeah. So,
agreed.
So yeah, and you're right. You're absolutely right, Michael. Also, it did seem weird to me that it's the only thing that the army is doing to find 11 is just chasing down vagrants that look kind of like her, and shooting them with darts. I'm like, really? You're the military. Why are you not monitoring every, radio frequency and going house to house and searching and at least keeping an eye on people, like you said, that she was with?
Yeah.
It's that's kind of basic 101 stuff, right? But you're right. You know what? At this point, it's let's just keep going. Not going to worry about it. Just keep going.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for writing in, Brownlee. Yeah. We'll hopefully hear some more from you.
Yeah, I hope so.
If we can.
What's happening here? What are we going to be doing next, you ask? Well, let me tell you. Next up, our next podcast, which would be episode 382, will be following episodes of Stranger Things 5.2, and it's entitled Chapter 2, The Vanishing of Holly Wheeler. No.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like it's gonna go well for Holly.
I think not.
I'm just thinking.
Yeah. I'm guessing because whenever you use the word "the vanishing" in a sentence, it's usually, unless it's like some sort of magician or magical act, it's not good. So
it didn't go so well for Will the first time around, so it's got a sort of negative connotation.
Yes, I don't think it's considering it. It is negative. You're right. Yeah, absolutely.
It is.
So that we're going to be covering that. So definitely tune in for that. And we were all set to go to Days of the Dead Chicago this very weekend. Diana was going to wear her super cool Aliens t-shirt with all of the soldiers' names coming out of hypersleep, and I was going to wear my Wayland Yutani shirt, and we were all set to do this big Aliens cast reunion. But what happened, Dee?
They're calling it postponed, but it's canceled. Days of the Dead does 2 shows in Chicago. They do the spring show around Marchish, and then they always do like a fall show in November. And so they're calling this postponed until November, but basically they're canceling the March show. And from all intents and purposes, they're hoping to rebook everybody for the November show, but nothing's been, set in stone just yet. But their plan is to just have the same people. And they said that it was a couple of different reasons why, but one of the largest ones was the fallout from the weekend of the big blizzard that happened that sort of incapacitated a whole big section of the country. Was also the weekend of the Days of the Dead Indianapolis. And so they had a really hard time getting people out of it. I'm sorry, not Indianapolis, Atlanta. They were in Atlanta. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So they were having a hard time. Vendors were stuck in Atlanta, couldn't get out because the flights were all messed up because of what was going on in the Northeast. And so they were having problems with that. And then there was there was some awards show of some kind that they were expecting to lose a lot of the actors to. So they just, they bit the bullet, and they didn't want to have a low turnout because of all those things and then disappoint their folks that had purchased their tickets. So they just postponed until the November dates. So we'll talk about the Alien cast reunion when we talk about stuff in November. So put a pin in that.
Yeah, the only thing that I'm worried about is, are they going to get everybody to come back?
So.
The availability is clearly a thing, and people are working, and plus the November show is right around Thanksgiving and the holiday time, and there's
tough.
And it's 6-7 months from now, so who knows what people's health is going to be. There's just so many variables
factors, yeah.
that I'm just worried that instead of getting the 6 people for the cast reunion, we'll end up getting 3 or 4 or something, and that's just too bad. So
and it's doubly pain in the butt that they had to cancel because about a week before the cancellation notice, they had just booked Giancarlo Esposito to come, and there was all kinds of excitement about that. And, to get, if you can get like the one big draw to a smaller convention like that, and it's just fantastic. And he's so wonderful anyway, that you love to see other people get a chance to meet someone that you had such a positive experience with. So I was feeling so excited for this convention and for them to have to be forced to cancel / postpone. It's just disappointing. So
yeah, it is.
Like you said, I'm really hopeful they can get the whole slate of people to come in November as well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and then there were some Hellraiser people that were coming, so yeah, I mean, it would have been a really great show, just not just for the guests, not just getting to hopefully go to a panel with Giancarlo, which would have been great, but
Yeah.
the whole getting to do the shopping, walking around looking at all the vendors and the artists, and then of course obviously the social interaction that we have with a lot of the crazy people that are there, as
Yep.
well as ourselves, and going out to dinner, the whole thing. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
fun weekend for us, and
Yeah.
now it's kind of like, oh, well,
Mm,
I guess not. So
yeah.
so yeah, we'll have to see. Fingers crossed that they can get the mostly people to come back.
Mostly.
Mostly.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was kind of upsetting. I'm not gonna lie.
Yep.
When,
Yep.
when I was like, oh, I guess it's not happening. So
Yeah. Yeah.
but
It was really close to the date too, which is also what makes it kind of jarring too.
yeah, I mean, what was it, like 10 days, 12 days? I mean,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
I think we broke the 2-week mark, and then they kind of said, "Oh, by the way, we're not going to do it." So
F to the YI. Yes.
but that just means now we can put all of our eggs into the C2E2 basket, and
Yes.
and that's now the next big show that's coming up at the end of March, and
Yeah.
much like C2E2 likes to do. Just today they announced a couple of new guests,
Yeah.
which is their thing. I mean, like it'll be like the week of the show, and like they'll still be announcing, oh hey, guess who's going to be here on Saturday, and you're like,
Yeah.
really? So. But because I was just kind of, it was funny, we were talking about it before we started recording, and I was just kind of saying, I've looked at the guest list, and there's Olsen from the Avengers movies is kind of the headliner, I would think, right? And
Yeah, I think so.
and then there's like a little Jurassic Park reunion, and there's Superman and Lois reunion, and then a bunch of obviously comic book and anime people and things. But overall, it's like it's impressive, but it's not crazy. I mean, Kristen Ritter's coming. Obviously, we loved her on Breaking Bad,
Mm-hmm.
and some of the other things she's done, and like Charlie Cox, who plays Daredevil in the show. So they
Yeah.
have people, but I'm just overall, for just me personally, I'm like, I don't think I'm going to get any autographs. I don't think, there's nobody that I'm like, yeah, I'd stand in line for 3 hours for them. And so I was kind of excited about that. And then you're like, oh, hey, they just added 2 people. And I'm like, damn it.
Damn it.
So and Martin Sheen's coming, and I'm like, I could meet Martin Sheen. I think that would be okay. So now I'm thinking about that. So thank you so much, C2E2.
Yeah. Good job.
But anyway, yeah, so that's coming up. But what do we have coming up, or other things going on, I should say? You put this down that I guess the Duffer Brothers are not done.
No. There's a couple of like Stranger Things adjacent thing. There's some sort of animated thing that's coming out, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna watch that or not. We'll see. But
let me ask you that that's so far like the only like official like spin-off that they've done, right? Am I
I'm
correct
aware
in that?
of so far. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I remember there was a lot of talk about maybe they could, do a Robin and Steve show, or you know what I mean, all of the spin-off
Right.
and I remember them saying no, when this ends, we're not gonna do that. And then I heard about this thing. I didn't know it was animated though. Is it a prequel? Is it have they given any crumbs?
I don't know. I think it's just the show, but as an animated thing, like maybe just the first season. Because it looks like them when they're in the first season, the youngest versions of the kids. So,
okay.
That's I've only seen a couple of images so far, and I don't know a lot about it. So that's what I know. But it's supposed to be on Netflix pretty soon, like within the next few weeks. So keep your eyes open for it.
Absolutely.
It might be worth just to watch at least like one episode, see how it goes.
Yeah. I'm curious to see what they look like in cartoon form.
And the other 2 things they have coming up are 2 shows that they are executive producing. And they both look kind of interesting. Obviously, both on Netflix, because that's where their butter is.
Yeah.
Their bread is butter. So.
That's the company that keeps giving wheelbarrows full of money at their house every morning.
Of course.
So, yes.
Why wouldn't they? So there's a wedding-themed horror series, which I thought is very interesting.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that thought.
Something Very Bad is Going to Happen is the name of it. And it's got I think if I looked it up right, it's got 8 episodes, and that's coming up soon. That premieres at the end of the month, March 26th And I didn't see whether or not it's going to be a dump all the episodes binge kind of show, or if it's going to be a week to week. Netflix tends to be a dump all the episodes, so be prepared for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, wedding themed horror series. Title of it is Something Very Bad Is Going to Happen. Didn't have really anyone that I could recognize in the cast as of yet. But speaking of recognize the cast, the other show that they're involved in, called The Burrows, is a sort of, I don't know if it's supernatural, but it's very like
creepy,
mysterious thriller kind of thing, figuring out something mysterious or whatever, and it takes place in a retirement community. So it's all older actors, but it is a stacked cast. It is Alfred Molina, Gina Davis.
Wow.
Who else? There's I'm forgetting, of course, half of them, but look it up. It's this really Alfre Woodard, I think. A couple of other folks. It's, oh my God, what a cast. So it's like 6 or 7 folks that look like they're in their, their 50s or 60s, as it were. And they're supposed to be figuring out something, mysterious or strange that's happening within their retirement community. So I just think it's funny that it's going to be a show that is the direct opposite of what they did to get famous, which was young kids figuring it out, and now it's adults, like very mature adults.
Yeah. I'm looking it up. It looks like Bill Pullman's in it.
Oh yeah, Bill Pullman. I knew there was a couple others.
But Gina Davis and my God, the cast looks freaking awesome. So
yeah, and that premieres just before Memorial Day weekend. So it looks like the weekend before Memorial Day weekend, the 21st of May. And this all hit my radar because they released a couple of pictures from the Burrows, but that's all they've released so far. And one of the things I saw in the article was that they were surprised we haven't seen anything yet because it premieres in like a little over 2 months. And there's no no kind of teaser trailer of any kind that we've seen so far. So keep your eyes open. There should be something, I would assume, soon that would at least be some kind of trailer or teaser to get people into watching that show. So The Burrows premieres May 21st and looks really interesting.
Yeah, it does.
So hey, yeah,
how about
look at that?
They were able to do 2 shows at once. That's pretty cool.
I know. Look at them.
That's amazing. And then finally, the Screen Actors Guild Awards were held, and I believe they renamed them. They're called like the Actor Awards or something now.
Yeah, but we'll just call them the SAG Awards.
They're SAGs, yeah. But I liked it because Kristen Bell was the host, and I do like me some Veronica Mars, so that was cool. And the great thing was that Amy Madigan won the SAG for her role in Weapons.
And she was so surprised, I think, because she won the Golden Globe. She won like the Critics' Choice or something, but then, you know what it was?
No, she won the People's Choice, I thought.
Yes. But she didn't get the Golden Globe because the gal from One Battle After Another won.
Yes. Yeah.
And she's been getting a lot of buzz. So I just really felt like going into like the heavy duty, elite awards, as it were, that, Tiana Taylor, who's the actress from One Battle After Another, that she was going to start like racking in all these bigger awards. So I was so surprised to see that Amy Madigan won. And I think she was surprised too. But the cutest part is if you can find video of when she gets up on stage, she runs across the stage a little bit with her arms down in the pose, just like the kids from Weapons. Yep. It's so friggin' cute. I love it.
Yeah, well, the SAG Awards sometimes are harbingers for the Oscars. There's a lot of correlation of people who tend to win the Screen Actors Guild also tend to win the gold statues. We'll have to see, right? Genre picture, a lot going against it because the Academy just doesn't like them very much, except for the technical stuff.
Yeah.
You kind of like have to go back into the far reaches of history to The Silence of the Lambs, which people still debate, is that a horror movie? Is it a detective movie? I mean, it's kind of like up, different interpretations, but that's really the last feature film that kind of swept the Oscars, right? That won picture, director, Jodie Foster won, and Anthony Hopkins won, right?
Yeah.
And then, but that's really the last time that anyone was in this kind of a movie that won. So we'll have to see it. My fingers are crossed because, first of all, she's amazing in it and deserves it, but also because it is a genre picture and they usually don't win. So, but I did see the video of her running across the stage, and that was awesome. So, and the other great thing is that sitting right next to her is of course Ed Harris, and he rules the planet. So that was cool as well. So.
He's pretty great. So that was great, and I really hope this is it's a good sign going into the Oscars, at least, that she's got a good chance.
She does. She really does. So that and Sinners. Sinners is up for everything as well, and again another now that
I would call that a genre movie as well.
That clearly is a horror movie, because it's just a remake of From Dusk Till Dawn, but still it's a horror movie.
He won Best Actor.
He did.
And leading into it, he was the favorite going into a lot of the awards ceremonies, and then Chalamet started winning a bunch of awards. But he won this, and people are like, this might mean, like, could he win the Oscar for this, which would be fantastic. Michael B. Jordan is great.
Oh,
He's really, really great. So
I really liked him in the movie. I didn't really like the movie, though. I think it just is, it's not original very much. I mean, it just copies like the plot of like 4 other movies that I thought were better than it. So anyway, that's my take. I definitely see it though. I mean, it's that you should definitely watch it and take it in. But yeah, Amy Madigan won. So yay! That was pretty cool. So all right, anything else from you?
No, I think we've kind of wrapped it all up. We got it together.
All right. Wow. So we survived our journey to the Upside Down.
We did.
That's so cool. I mean, I got to admit, it's a little unsettling, but it was cool. So, all right. Well, that's going to wrap it up for us this week, folks. But tune in next week, and always remember that. Wow, I can't even remember what the sign off is. Always aim for the head, right?
Yeah, and then your whole thing, where the body shots, they just don't work.
That's how it goes. All right. We'll see ya. To send us an email, write us at aimfortheheadpodcast@gmail.com. And our Twitter handle is @AFTH Podcast. Pictures and video are always welcome at our Instagram account, Aim for the Head Podcast, all one word. But the best way to keep in touch with us is to just like our Facebook page to get all of our updates in your feed. I was thinking about like next week we could have the beginning part could be like me going, I had this weird dream that last week I was leading everything, and you were like, yeah, moron, we did that.